we're doing a crossover with the Benchracer's Guild and Hicks Racing Podcast, doing a little bit of a crossover for this episode. So we're going to kind of talk about the origins of both podcasts and the history in the sport, and whatever else happens to come up. So that's just kind of in local racing. Yeah, whatever else has come up, we're just going to kind of go through some of that stuff. So that's kind of what we're doing today. I recently read a Babylon Bee article that said that and if you're not familiar with the Babylon Bee, it's a satire site, which is actually really, really funny. But anyways, it said that most of the nation's podcasts have just turned into podcasters talking to other podcasters about their podcasts, which is kind of what we're doing.
That's exactly what we're doing. So this will help everybody kind of get to know both shows and like what we're all about and how we do things and where we came from.
Yeah.
Well, I think we also wanted to, show, both podcasts are kind of upstate New York based, and we want to promote that as well.
Yeah. Upstate New York.
Absolutely.
Even though we're in PA.
Close enough.
So I go, who wants to hit it off here?
Okay.
Go ahead.
We're totally going to swing it to you guys every time.
Okay. Well, let's do it. We'll speak about how we started the shows first. So Alan and I, from what I heard, he can fill in the blanks, but we were sitting around, I think it was the opening round of Supercross. It was January 21. And we were thinking about all these people we know that we've raced with, that we know from the tracks, and they have such great stories. So we wanted to lock in those stories and this history forever. He said, why don't we do a podcast? I was like, that sounds pretty cool, So we bounced some ideas around, and then we started the first show with our buddy Joe Celso, which was the end of January.
It was I just looked at it. It was February 13th. It took us a while to come up with a name. That was the biggest thing. And then kind of start figuring.
How did you guys come up with the name, by the way?
I was heavily intoxicated wandering around at Aldi's.
Fair enough.
That's exactly what happened.
So the thing you can always default to when you listen to us is that the creative stuff is usually Adam's end and my stuff is usually the technical end. So I definitely did not come up with a name because I'm not good at coming up with names at all. I would probably better off asking my 10-year-old to come up with a name. She'd probably do a better job.
Yeah, I agree.
So another little sidebar. Alan is like our technical guy. He handles all the computer stuff.
Yep.
He primarily handles a lot of stuff with the web page and Buzzsprout and where our advertising and where we send the show, et cetera. And I sort of kind of do a layout and content. I'll ask Alan for whatever he's got ideas, and I'll kind of just do a layout of what we're going to do that night and write that down. Sometimes I only do it 5 minutes before the show starts when I'm pressed for time.
Those are usually the best ones. I mean, to give you an idea of this, it's like a handwritten note. If we're starting a recording at 7 p.m. on a Tuesday, just random example. There'll be a handwritten, a picture of a handwritten note that shows up in my text messages with a page of stuff at 6:55 from Adam.
And then Alan will make it look more professional by using some kind of program which makes it actually go into text.
Sometimes I'll write intro. Yeah.
Sometimes there's no longhand to read.
Sometimes I'll write an intro. I'll write an intro in my Apple Notes app. I'll write an intro, and a lot of the news breaks and stuff that we do that you hear, that's a lot of stuff that I write too. But yeah, my primary end is technical stuff. I'm the software engineer. That's my career. So I'm technical, pretty technical.
I was wondering.
Yeah.
My background is construction.
Yes. Yeah. So we have quite a diversity in our group, but it works really well. So that's kind of where we came at it from. And we've kind of gone through, and so Adam was the PR director of Palmyra for was it 3 years, I think, right?
3 or 4.
3 or 4 or something. Yeah. So he knows a bunch of people from that. And then we just know a bunch of people from being at the track, just working with people. I was the secretary for 3 terms and I was on the board for 1 term. So when you're the secretary of PRA, which we could get into how PRA is run, but that's a whole separate thing. But anyways, the important part to note there is that the secretary is the person that everyone sends that everyone pays their money to, and sends their information to. So memberships $500 a year, and it could be less depending on how much you worked the prior year, whatever. But the secretary ultimately is responsible for collecting every single one of those memberships, and there's like 200 of them. So I dealt with a lot of people in that time because like people would show up to my house and give me cash, and then I would meet the treasurer somewhere and give it to her. So I know a lot of names, and you see everyone's application come through. So we just know a lot of people. And then on top of that, there's another co-host that we work with sometimes, our friend Chris Brudnicki. He was on the last episode with us when we talked to Steve Mathewson, and Chris knows a lot of people because he's been racing since like the late 90s. I think he said he started racing in 95 or 96. I know he's going to listen to this as soon as I publish it and text me about what year it actually was. But anyway, and he knows a ton of people too because he's like a guy who's just kind of like friendly with everybody. So he knows a lot of people.
So when we have somebody that he really knows well, that's when we bring Chris on to kind of help the show flow, because he's got a lot of good questions for people that he really knows well, and behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, like he's a personal. I think his parents are friends with Chris Mosier. They knew him before all of the Area 51 stuff. So Mosier's a family friend, and he rode Baja with Yak in like 2006 or something like that.
Oh wow.
So yeah, he just knows a lot of people. He's been around forever. He's one of those guys that like he walks around the track and everyone recognizes him and knows him, and they're maybe not sure where from. But so we have the fortune.
I love that. Because there's like a huge history there, and they're like, how does everybody know this guy? And then like you can come on your podcast and be like, okay, now I know.
Yeah, that was the point of the show. Basically, we wanted the feel to be as if you're sitting around a campfire in the pits and you're just BSing with your buddies and telling stories that have happened in bench racing, and that's kind of how we wanted to feel, kind of loose and I'm not even sure what I'm trying to describe, but just relaxed.
Yeah, I know everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. I mean, there's so many stories that can be told. I mean, just alone in the upstate New York area of
oh yeah, there's
so people
much.
have been around for 30 some years.
Right.
That's the one I listened to. It's the one they did with Yak. That's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
like some of these older guys
That would
have
have to
so
make you
much.
Yes, it was.
These older guys that have raced forever have so much history, and just great stories back in the day that have happened, and we want to just immortalize them. Is basically the.
Well, some of them are like crazy stories too. You're like, oh my god, I don't think I'd ever do that. Like,
do either one of you guys race?
Yes, we both have. Before we move on to that, though, I figured we would ask you guys how you started your show before we move on to other backgrounds.
Yeah, Matt,
sure.
you're bad at flow.
It's fine. It's no big deal.
That's why
we could be all over.
Write down the question. Write it down.
Our podcast started actually, and I know exactly when it was. As I was saying earlier, it was after watching we were listening to the Coffee with Keepers, but we were on the way home from Tomahawk. Yeah, it was Tomahawk on the way from Tomahawk, on the way home from Tomahawk for practice earlier this year. It was February, I believe. And I was just, of course, whenever we go anywhere, I do the driving, she does the sleeping. So I
was awake.
But you were awake. Yeah, you were awake. So so I was listening to catching up with my Coffee with Keepers, and they were going over, like I said, it was a Coffee with Keepers. They were going over their area qualifying. And that's kind of what our podcast is a little less of the stories of the sport, which of our local area, just more of our exploits, I guess, for lack of a better word, of our weekly racing. And then we like to get people on to hear what
Yeah, I think that a lot of people who don't necessarily race but like to hear about it don't understand what we go through on a weekly basis.
What a regular family goes through.
Not even just the money, but
money,
just the time,
rushing
and the effort
around,
and
driving, and
it's unreal.
That stuff.
So and that's not to deter anybody from joining it, but being like, hey, here's how it works.
Here's how it works.
And
right. And the dedication. The dedication for a regular family, if you want to do this, it's working until 5 o'clock on a Friday, getting home, getting loaded, getting hooked up to the camper or whatever, and then getting to the track and actually, it might sound like work to one person, but it's a work of love. I mean, I look forward to it every day.
I would say, like, I enjoy going, I enjoy going camping now.
Yeah.
And going racing and sitting around on Saturday nights and relaxing and then watching him Sundays, and I mean, I get into it. I'm like probably one of the more into it wives.
Probably, I would say.
Because if I can't be on like next to the track, pretty much on top of him, then I'm like, oh, this track, I gotta be on top.
Well, you and my wife would have a lot in common.
Yeah, it's the same.
I get so mad at him sometimes though, because the only time he goes down directly in front of me every time, I bet. So yeah, give from my perspective, being there cheering him on and doing the stuff I need to do, and then his perspective of I gotta get the bike ready, I gotta get these parts, I gotta do all this.
Yeah, and then we go in and we go over what the normal everyday person's cost of what of amateur racing, side.
A lot.
It is.
Holy crap. And because this is the first year I've actually kind of kept track of it. I just haven't before, and like, holy crap.
But again, I don't want to deter people.
No.
We don't necessarily do. We're not penny pinchers, when it comes to it. I tried. She's extremely cheap. We equally each other out, because I'm not cheap and she's cheap, so we meet in the middle.
Yeah.
If
I guess
if I had my way, I would have a brand new bike and brand new tires every weekend, and she doesn't allow
everybody
that.
wants it. Everybody wants that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Amen.
exactly.
Amen.
So yeah, that's kind of how we got started, and we've been enjoying it so far, and we get to meet new people through it. And
absolutely. That's
we've talked to a lot of people and learned.
Yeah.
It's not just about us talking; it's about us learning from other people.
100%. Yep.
And you guys you guys do the show a lot too at the tracks, right? I didn't really know you guys yet. I think it was the first Palmyra race, and I saw the banner and stuff, and I was like, huh,
that was the Blaze one.
That was the Blaze.
Yeah. So
we've done 2 at the track.
You get to camp out, and that's the best part too, is just camping out in the pits and being able to enjoy everybody.
Yeah, we've only recently started camping, so we bought a new camper last year. Because I told him, I was like, I'm sorry, but I hate camping.
Yeah,
I absolutely hate camping.
Neither one of us are big on camping.
We bought a pretty ridiculously big camper, but
it was a big fifth wheel with a TV on the outside, right? You guys had a TV going. I think you had racing on, I believe, wasn't it? Or something.
Oh, did you see us at one point?
Yeah, you guys were camped on the access road. Yeah, I was in the very back.
Yeah.
And
you didn't stop and say hi?
Yeah.
I didn't really know you guys at the time. This was back in early May, I think.
Yeah.
And I saw the banner quick because I was out working during the track most of the time, and things were a little hectic.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, we were out on the e-bikes. We had those 2 red e-bikes, and I glanced over and I saw the banner. Like, oh, there's a podcast over here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that was cool. Early May.
That was the first Palmyra race.
Yeah, we were in the back, right where the back field is, where there's like a little cut through.
Yeah.
Back in the field. We were right
that was a
next
nice
to
little
that.
place to camp too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's our camper. Yeah, that's the only way I'll go camping.
Yeah, I mean, we're neither one of us are. Yeah, we're not.
You like to glam?
Not tent campers.
You're glamping.
Yeah. I just want to be comfortable. I want to be able to shower when I'm done practicing, and I don't.
Oh yeah, that's the best part about having the camper. Is that shower afterwards.
Exactly.
Yep. Shower, and I want to go to the bathroom in my own bathroom.
Yep.
And I have a full bar. That's the most important.
Yeah.
Well, I have to have my Sunday morning racing Bloody Mary, so that's the whole thing.
Yeah, you're not racing.
Sounds like she wakes up the same way I do.
I love
cracking a beer by 9 a.m.
My advice for hydration,
awesome.
if you're racing, would be to not do that.
Yeah, you gotta keep it equal.
Have at it, yeah. And I think the camper thing makes sense. So we know Michelle Jones, who's in charge of. I think she's the secretary.
Yeah. We just recently started talking to her this year. She's super nice.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
We talked to her for a while.
Yep, I've known her for.
Nothing functions without her.
I mean, so
I bet it. I can't imagine it would.
Shout out to her. Yeah.
She must do a ton of work.
What I was getting at for is that her and her husband, they also have a giant camper too, right?
Yeah.
Actually, she grew up with. I think her parents still have one as well. We talked to her dad, Gary Walker, and I think just on October. But anyways, they have a giant camper too, but they also live in it and you guys are doing something similar. It's like that's home every weekend from April to October.
Yep.
So it makes a lot of sense to have something nice because you don't have something shitty and then you're in it every weekend. But if you have something nice, we're taking the camper. Let's go. So
That's exactly
our camper is nicer than our house.
That's exactly. I don't know about that, but exactly, and that you hit it right on the head. We pretty much live in that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We haven't been home since the second week of
every
April.
weekend we've been, from the Loretta's qualifiers and regionals, and then and then camping it in our local races. Yeah, every weekend. And then if we do something that's not camping, we take the camper. So
yeah.
Yep.
So racing, you want to get into that? Like, how did you guys start? Like, I saw that you just had your first race in the women's class, and we can talk about how that went.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm gonna steal the spotlight for 14.2 seconds. All right. Listen, I was shitty. I'm not gonna lie, I was shitty. I was super slow. But I know now that in order to improve, I need to do about 45 minutes of straight running per day in like a snowsuit because I was dying. I was dying.
She always, when I work out in the morning, I always wear I wear a sweatshirt and a stocking
how
hat,
do you do that?
and it's every day, summer or winter. And she wonders she always looks at me like I'm a weirdo, and now she understands why.
Yeah, by the end of that day, I was like dragging feet. Matt was like, "Are you all right?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna sleep good tonight." But no, so it was a local track that we just started, which we're gonna do a separate podcast on that. But it was in Burlington, PA. It was a smaller track, so it was nice for me. It wasn't so intimidating, not like Area 51
at all.
Yeah. So I was like, all right, well, I practiced Saturday. I was like, well, let's just race. Like, I'm not going to do good, but I'll practice. I'll get some time in on the bike. Moto 1 was good. Moto 2 did not go good because my bike broke down. So
oh boy. What kind of bike?
Didn't finish that one. My mechanic is just
that
guy.
That bike's normally just a pit bike, so it's it wasn't.
What kind of bike?
Hadn't been maintained. CRF 150R.
Okay.
That's a good one to start on. Yeah.
Yep. Sure.
Yeah, and it's been a rock since the day we got it. I think it's been a rock. It's never done.
Like it's even easy for me to start.
I don't exactly know. I believe the coil. I think the coil was cracked, and I think the spark was going out the side rather than down in the plug. So I think that's the problem.
Okay.
No, but I was excited because I finally finished one. The first moto was super intimidating. I was because they put us on the same line as Schoolboy.
Oh my God!
I was like, oh great, I'm gonna be murdered.
Yeah, usually they put it on with the 50 plus guys.
I'm so screwed.
Yeah, usually they don't. They put it on with 50 plus guys though.
They don't. They didn't, I don't know if they had a 50 plus, but they had the 40 novice.
Well, and see, and then on I did 40B, and they put all the 40A, 40B, and 40C. Well, yeah, was 2 40Bs, it was like 4 40Cs, and then they had they put an expert out with us, and we all on the same start.
Yeah, see, they didn't even split the gates.
Yeah, so
I was on like the same gate drop as Schoolboy.
Did they have low numbers that day? It's weird that
it's a new track.
It's
a
brand
new
track. Yeah.
So they figured they would just
first race they ever had.
Okay, so they just put it together because their numbers probably weren't that high yet, and they figured, okay, we can combine these motos.
I was like, I'm gonna go after you guys go.
Yeah.
Putting Schoolboy out with the women's class though is like that's weird.
Yeah.
There was 2 women and then Schoolboy. I think College Boy was in there too, but there was like
actually it was
crazy.
College Boy, not Schoolboy.
Are you sure?
It was College
That's
Boy,
even
not
crazier.
It was. But like I said, she just let them go, and then she.
Yeah, I just held my line, and then when I knew they were coming, I would just stay in one spot so they could get by me. And
she did a good job.
Yeah, there are a couple things about that there's a lot about that that's tricky because so I didn't start racing until I think I did my first race when I was like 32. And when you start later, it's kind of hard to learn, all that stuff. Like, I don't know how long you've been racing that, but like I said, I started late. And for me, it was like, I didn't even start riding. I didn't even ride a motorcycle at all till I was 29. So I had ripped quads and stuff, but it was tricky to learn. That's because one of my friends, she started racing, and her son races, and he's really good. And her boyfriend at the time, he was racing too. And she was like, well, I'm going to do it too. And she thought it was going to be easy. And then she came to find out it wasn't. But I think it's something that when you try to learn it a little bit later, it's not as easy as I could put my 10-year-old on a bike probably, and she'd be ripping within the week, but for when you try to start doing it as an adult, it's a little bit trickier. So I think just finishing it all should really be the goal. So
for some perspective, how old are both of you?
I'm 40 going on 41.
Yeah, I'm 44.
Okay. Okay, I was curious.
And actually, it's funny. Almost the exact same thing. I didn't start racing until 2000. I didn't even start right. I had never rode a dirt bike in 2000 until 2012, and I'm 47 now.
Okay.
So that put me at. I was plus 30. I was plus 30 right off when I first started. Never had rode a motorcycle a day in my life. I rode. I did 2 seasons on the Wainoa. It was Wainoa back then on a quad. Yeah, on a quad. And then I had a buddy I worked with. He's like, you need to get rid of that quad. And well, back up just a little bit. Actually, I worked for a guy, and he had a 2000 CR 250R. And
so at least you started out good.
Yeah, I started out on an easy bike, you know. It sat over in the corner, and I always eyed it up, and of course I rode snowmobile a lot, and I was pretty crazy, and I rode snowmobile with the same guy, and we would bang bars in the woods up in Tug Hill, like just 80 miles an hour banging bars. So speed and stuff didn't bother me. But I had this CR250R that sat along in the corner there, and he's like, "Do you want to buy that?" And I worked for him, so I'm like, "Yeah." And so we worked a deal out where I worked for him part time, and he just took it out of my pay. So that's where I started on. And he had a motocross track in his backyard. He didn't ride much, but so that's how I started. Many times over the bars, and the bike would just lay there waiting for me to get back up. And that's why I love Honda so much, because they're the toughest bike there is.
The fact that you worked your way up to 40B and were able to race competitively, though, shows that you definitely put the effort in to improve pretty quickly. I mean, it's jumping from C to B class at that age is pretty hard within just an 8-10 year span. I mean, it's difficult.
Yeah.
B class is like a whole different animal.
For this past winter, I would say starting in like October on, he lost like 30 pounds this winter.
Yeah.
And since then, since this season has started, like we've been racing 2 months now, I can see a significant improvement in his riding. Like he looks looser, he looks not so like bogged down. It's insane.
Yeah, you really have to ride a lot to get like battered like that. I mean, you have to just keep at it. If guys aren't, at least like once or twice a week.
Yeah, I don't. That's where we're located. I don't get to. Well, we have a small track in our backyard, but
that's mainly for me.
Yeah, it doesn't work great for a big bike, but
we
don't have great riding. I just mainly work out. But I did get when I worked for him. I got to ride. He had a pretty decent track, and I do have a lot of will and determination. I don't.
Yeah,
I don't get deterred very easy. Yeah,
so.
I wreck a lot. And you can ask my competitors.
Oh my!
I still wreck a lot.
Don't get me started.
2 weekends ago at Area 51, I don't think there was a moto I didn't go down, but I still won 3 of them. I mean, I don't.
That's impressive.
I told him like, well, so like he'll be out front. His starts are shit. We've already had this discussion. He's agreed. His starts are shit. But like every once in a while, he'll get a good hole shot, and then he's out front, and then he'll go down. And
so
then
you're like an Eli
like
Tomac. You're an Eli Tomac.
Yeah.
And then he'll be back in like 5th, and then you'll see him charge back up. And I'm like, you go by these guys, and they've got to be like, oh my god, this guy's got to be exhausted by the end of the day.
He's a short little fat guy. He don't give up.
Charger.
That's. I also like to thank you for blowing my excuse of starting too late straight to hell, because I started at the same age and I'll be in C class for it's like, I think what I've determined is it's like B level skill but C speed, which means it's just C, because nobody cares.
Most guys you see approaching like when you're like 30 or someone around 30 years old, you just start to see, like if you looked at it on a graph, just a straight down decline for most guys. And not a lot of guys get to go up,
No, he's.
But I've never been afraid to twist the throttle.
Well, and here's the next thing is, so last year we did our regional Loretta qualifier. He didn't even get in. They had to do divisions. He finished like 33rd, I think. This year he was up to 15th. So like he's definitely making improvements there. So I think next year we're going to try again. So there's definitely a lot of improvement.
I have goals. I want to, I'd like to make Loretta's, at 45 in the 45 class.
Yeah.
Now you guys got kids that race too, right?
So we have John who's in beginner, which by the way, beginner in Empire State right now is insane.
Well, I think it's everywhere.
Well,
Sandbagger.
from our perspective. Yeah.
Yes,
so there was
you're
like
right.
30 guys on the gate. I was like, I am not starting in beginner.
And not only that, but 15 of the 30 don't belong in beginner.
Yeah,
that used to be
that's the way it's always
class.
is. Yeah, I agree.
It's a known issue.
It's a known issue. Yeah,
they never point out because they don't race enough, so they don't point out. They can stay there as long as they want.
And there's one in particular that had, and I won't name names, but that had moved up from 85s, and you're supposed to move to novice when you move up from 85, and this one moved up to he moved up to beginner. And but I'm not surprised. I still put it that way.
Right.
Now that actually is my boy. He was on 85, but he never did. I petitioned. I mean, because that's I moved him up from the 80. Well, on the 150 he rode up to the 250, and I petitioned to go beginner because he'd never actually accomplished anything. We didn't, we had a lot of we'd race for a few.
That's a whole long story.
Yeah, we'd race a few races a year. He just never really.
Yeah. So I mean, he's beyond 15th finish.
Yeah, but he's a big boy, so the 250 fits him better. And I just said, so, but yet again, he's mid-pack in the beginner class, so he's not smoking. He's certainly not smoking anybody.
Yep.
Yeah, but the thing is, in C classes though, you got to look at the top 10 with a grain of salt because they have B speed and they're just staying in that class.
100%.
The same with the local scramble series. There was a time probably around 17 before I got really hurt that I was racing at the top of C, and in the back of my mind I should have been able to think, well, geez, I should probably be racing with the B class guys if I could hang with these guys in the top 7 in Vet C. So it's if he can race at like the top of any beginner or C class, he's doing better than he thinks because those guys, they hang out in that class for a long time.
It's tough. I mean, if I signed up for moto, I would still go race that class, but again, it's the speed.
Yeah.
So, but
we have so Lucas actually just today.
Yeah.
I drove up to Watkins Glen today actually because we went and bought a new PW50 at a Yamaha dealership.
Okay.
I don't remember the name of the dealership. If we want to shout them out.
Is it Lane's Yamaha? Is that the one?
Lane's
Yep.
Lane's Yamaha.
So we went. He got a PW. He rode that tonight, and then so he's hopefully starting at some point. He's so short. He's 4.
We had bought him a brand new KTM Mini, but he's so small. I had these great ideas that he would just because he cranks around on a stay stick like nobody's business.
That KTM was
so I thought we'll skip the PW and go right to the Mini, and that was not the case. So we sold the Mini, and
you didn't account that his parents are also midgets.
The Mini was big for him. So.
Well, for perspective, for people who are listening, like Matt's 5'7".
Yeah,
on a good day.
On a good day.
And I'm 5'3", if that, not even.
So
he's
short too.
Horribly short.
Well, you should get a hold of Steve Mathewson that we just talked to. He can lower your suspension for you.
Exactly.
Little shout out for Steve.
Lowered.
And the thing too is that.
So that's kind of our background in racing. I don't know. You said you started racing at 32.
Yeah, so we did an episode about this, but I go through real quick, and then Adam go through his. I rode like 3-wheelers and stuff as a kid. Like a teenager, probably about 12, 13 years old. My great uncle had one, and actually my cousin had. My family has some property in Deposit, New York, which is like east of Binghamton. I'm originally from northern New Jersey, and anyways, my cousin had one. He's like 3 years older than me. He would never share with it, never share with me, let me ride it. But my great uncle had one, and it just sat under the porch. And one day he's like, "Hey kid, you want to ride this thing?" I was like, "Hell yeah, I want to ride it." And I rode that thing every chance we got. And we were up there at that property. I rode that thing all weekend, as much as I could. And I talked to my dad about getting one, and there was, we looked at stuff and we talked to people who had them. It just never came through. There was one one story in particular I told in the podcast is that I was, back in those days, you looked through the paper and the classifieds, and we looked at I think it was I saw an ad, and I didn't really know what it was. I saw it's a three-wheeler, cool, and it was a Yamaha Tri-Z 250, which is a freaking like hardcore racing 250cc two-stroke, but I didn't know what it was. We went and looked at it. My dad was like, "Yeah, there's no way in hell you're doing that." But so then I kind of like when we got to high school, got to college, kind of forgot about it completely, and then it was July 4th, 2005, and I was hanging out with a friend of mine. He had just bought a 2004 Yamaha YF Z450, and as soon as I saw that four-wheeler in his garage, I immediately became obsessed with the idea of buying one. And I had the money at that point, so like 2 months later, I went and bought something. And then the guys I was going to ride with kind of flaked out, and so I found new people to ride with. But then I also was living with somebody, and her son was living with me too. And I bought him a dirt bike because I wanted him to come with me, but I saw how dangerous kids' four-wheelers were. They're kind of sketchy, so we bought a dirt bike. He went through a couple different bikes. We'd go like every weekend. And eventually we ended up buying him an 85. And I had been on four-wheelers for like 3 seasons by that point or something. And I was watching him ride the 85. I was like, yo, I got to get a dirt bike. This is way too much fun. He was about 13 and he was just ripping. So then I bought a dirt bike, and then I kind of met and in the background of this, I started a website where I met some people online. There was a guy who had a track out in, I think it's like Marion, New York, which is north of Palmyra, for reference. And it was just on private property. He was a guy who had moved out from the city of Rochester to build the track. So I rode a bunch at his place. Like I started riding there when I had four-wheelers, and I switched to dirt bikes. I rode there. We started a website. I met a bunch of people there. And then it just kind of, steamrolled from there. Ended up doing my first race was September 2000. So this was 2031. My first race was September 2009. I raced 30 plus, just like Matt was talking about. My first race, and open beginner on my 2006 Yamaha YZ250. And I did a couple races after that. And then at some point I got Adam involved in it too. We kind of became friends and started racing and hanging out at some point in there. And I did a couple races, but just kind of really, I don't know, I haven't really done much the last couple of years. The real thing that really got me going with riding dirt bikes though was the Palmyra Hare Scramble 2007. That's the first weekend, the first Sunday in November. It has been every year since I don't even know when. And I went and watched that one year, and I was like, wow, I got to ride this, and I got to get into this place. And so I put in an application, and then it just kind of, like I said, it just kind of all rolled forward from there. Everything that's happened all started with those three-wheelers back in the early 90s. But yeah, I've raced a little bit of motocross. I had big dreams of doing Wainoa at one point also. Did like one or two, just it was different than what I was expecting, and I just didn't really want to do it. Did like I said, a little bit of motocross. So yeah, usually like a mud fest.
I was on the bike for 15 minutes straight,
Yeah,
maybe. I was dying. I was like, there's no way I could do an hour and a half. There's no way. I'm way too fat for that.
Especially in the mud and like muck. It can be nasty,
and heat.
I think they're fun to do. We've done probably 12 total.
You think?
Over a few years. Oh yeah. On a bike, and then I did them on the quad for a couple of years. They're fun to do, but they're not a spectator sport. So
I hate watching.
She doesn't like them at all. One of you mentioned you got hurt really bad. What was that?
That was Adam.
Oh, that was me.
Which time?
So I guess I could
start with the first one.
If you listen to our history, how we started podcast, I give a lot of detail in it. But I actually started riding in 1992. It's a long story short. I started out, I think the first bike I rode, I was 11, and it was a 175 Honda 175 Dual Sport. I forget what model, XL, I think. XL 175.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Kind of like a KDX 175.
Yeah, and I just rode that thing until it ran out of gas, up and down, up and down. And we have a place, if you've ever ridden high voltage, you'll know exactly where it is.
No, I've never ridden it, but I know of it.
Okay, we have, and you said you used to ride snowmobiles up there in Tug Hill.
Yep.
So you know where the Confusion Flats is then. They call it in the Commons and all that. It's down by Pine Tree Inn. So if you know where Pine Tree Inn is, our place is straight across from there, about 6-7 miles down that dirt road. So I used to ride up there a lot as a kid. My dad put me on the next year. It was 93. He put me on a 252 stroke, which it's a left-hand kick KTM. It's an 83, and I still have it. I kept that bike.
That's
I never got rid of that one. I mean, we had a 74
awesome.
Honda Elsinore 50. My brother
That's
had
cool.
bikes. My buddies had bikes. So I mean, I used to ride quite a bit. I never raced until I met Alan and a bunch of these guys. He had a site called dirteaters.net. It was a forum online. So I met all these guys through Thumper Talk also.
Does that forum still exist?
It
does
doesn't.
not.
It exists
It
on
doesn't.
Facebook.
Yeah, it
So.
kind of died out. Unfortunately, it's just kind of one of those things that it was
Gotcha.
kind of less and less people used it until like basically no one was using it. So
Gotcha. Okay.
So I think my first race, I was in my late 20s. It was 2009, out at Area 51. It was a GP race, and I had an absolute blast. It was a mud day. I did terrible. I mean, I wasn't this. It was something different than I was used to doing. So from that point on, I just kept developing my skills, getting better and better, and just riding more, racing more. These guys doing harder stuff. I kind of just kept working my way a little bit at a time up, had several different bikes. I think the best I really did was when I moved up to the vet class. I think it was 16 and 17. I was racing. I think I had some finishes in the top 12 out of 32. At one point, there was a race that I started dead last because my bike didn't start out of 32 racers, and I was up to 7th in the first half a mile. So I have that one on video. I like watching that one, but so I knew I could probably at that point I could probably do like compete at some point in like the lower B class somewhere. That was probably the fastest I ever got. And then but I had injuries that just plagued me over and over. I just had level 5 separation. My shoulder required surgery in 13. I've broken my ankle twice, the same ankle on my shift side. I've broken ribs, concussions, and then the worst.
Yeah, Matt's got a whole list of concussions.
I got hit by a truck when I was 17 on my brother's bike, and it dislocated my elbow backwards.
That's it? It just dislocated your elbow?
Yeah, I just got clipped. Yeah, it destroyed the truck and the bike, and my father was pretty pissed off. That was right down.
I would be too.
Not too far from where High Voltage is, actually. I used to ride on that property as a kid, like all around the Lewis County trails, even before they were ever like trails, like long in the early 90s. And then in 2018, it was April. Hogback was just hard as a rock. I was feeling real good. I went over the fly off, the highest I'd ever done. I feel like I was 20 feet in the air. Came up Chris Ladelfa, who I think you've raced with in the vet class in 30
they have
at some point. Him and Jordan Mazur were watching me and just like staring at me because I was feeling real good. And I came out of the corner about in 4th across Walker's ass like I normally do. And I had a 99 YZ250. And before I knew it, the thing was just locked wide open. And I was straight up in the air about 15 feet.
Oh, wow.
Like, straight up and down. I had no idea what happened. I had to let go of the bike. And I hit right in the top of my back on the last roller before the hilltop jump. And it was just the most intense pain I'd ever felt. And I was just rolling around the ground, like making noise. Like I couldn't move my legs for like 30 seconds. And the bike was like 25 feet away, just bouncing off the rev limiter because the throttle had gotten stuck wide open. It still had the old oval throttle reel in there, which Ned Munir told me they used to get stuck back in the day, and a lot of guys got hurt. The old throttle reels in those. So I ended up breaking my T10 and T11 vertebrae. I broke the sacrum in 2 parts. It moved it like a 1/4 inch in each direction. And I herniated 3 discs all in one crash. And at that point, it just knocked all the fight right out of me. Like I didn't know if I wanted to even ride again, let alone race again. So, I mean, ever since then, I've never, that was the last time I ever stopped. I never raced after that. So I've moved on to riding dual sport rides. I do trail riding. Sometimes I'll do the hare scramble as a sweep rider, but I'll do it. But really into these dual sports now with the street legal bike. I mean, it's the same as any other KTM, but it's just got lights on it. It's really opened my eyes to a different type of riding. So now, I mean, even though I'll hold back, I usually don't like riding over 80%. I know what I can do, so I won't get hurt. But it's increased my skill doing the technical stuff. Like we were down in Misha last weekend doing A and B level rock stuff, like that is insane compared to whatever we have here.
That's cool. That's cool.
And you can get in for $70. I mean, you can get in 140 miles of riding sometimes in a day.
Yeah, we were out there for like, and we went out at like 8:30 and got back at like 4:15 or something with a break for lunch. So
yeah, 140 miles we did.
Yeah, we were on the bikes all freaking day long.
And they have the great options. Like, so you do these options sections. We do them all. We just eat that stuff up. It's great stuff to practice on, like off-road skills.
Yep.
So
that's the A level.
Fun.
Yeah.
So now, do you still have pain like from those injuries?
Every day, every single day, and I work construction, so I'm an iron worker.
That doesn't help either.
So I'm up on the iron. I'm doing heavy rigging. I'm a welder. I'm a DOT and AWS welder. So, but I'm out in the field all the time, and it plagues me. I also hurt my knee at work, so I have no cartilage in it, and just everything comes together. Some days are just unbearable, and it's hard to get through, and so I cannot get hurt anymore.
Right. If you do it even more, then it's like, now I don't have a job. If I get hurt even more, I don't have a job.
I completely feel you. I would like to be faster than I am right now, but I
gotta go to work on Monday.
Yeah. And there was a time when I first started riding, I at 30 years old, up until probably until 40, early 40s, I didn't think about it. I would do stuff and send things that, and actually I think the final thing that slowed me down a little bit was that big step up at Palmyra, and I knocked myself out.
These are diehard Palmyra people. We have PTSD.
That jump. Yeah, that jump is. I literally have step up phobia because of that jump.
Yeah,
I got sideways off it and clipped the top, and then that step up, it's a long ways down on the lander, and when I clipped it to the side, and I was sideways, so it just whipped me down, and it knocked me out. And
I have the video of it, and like the video is like nasty, but then I watched him come, like he got right up.
I actually got back up and finished the race.
Yeah,
and I just passed people.
But he came back into the trailer, and we didn't have the camper at the time, and like he had no idea what was going on.
Yeah, and it's not the first time I had been knocked out and got back up and finished racing, and I had done it a few times riding snowmobile, roll a sled or whatnot, and not think about it. But this one here, and since then I'm like, and I think the biggest mistake, and I think I never let myself, any bad crash I ever had, I would get back up and ride again. And that one there, they wouldn't, because she had the ambulance, she had the people had me check. She had them come over and check me out, and they wouldn't let me finish the day. And I just I don't know.
Because you didn't know that I gave you a bottle of water. Like you didn't even know what the bottle of water was.
Scary.
I think
you can be done for the day.
I broke my femur in 2013. On that CR250, and that didn't slow me down. I was back riding 4 months. As soon as I could, my buddies wouldn't start it for me, and because I wanted to ride sooner, and they were like, "Well, when you can start your own bike, you can ride again." So 4 months, I was able to, because it was a leg. I broke my right leg, so when I could bear to kick a bike, I was back riding.
That's like most riders' determination. I think that's just a dirt biker thing, we don't want to give up like what we do, and we'll just find ways to keep enjoying ourselves. Doing.
It's the competition. It's the comp. I am, man, and it's actually funny. This last weekend, even at that little race that meant nothing. It was just for fun. But we sat in the line, and the guy next to me says, remember, guys, we all got to work tomorrow and stuff, and so let's just take it easy. I looked at him and said, I'll take my grandmother out to win this race. So, that might be a little extreme, but I just, man, when that gate drops, I want to win.
No, I mean, I still rooted you on the whole weekend because you went down at one point because I gave whenever he goes down easily.
I had actually I had got the second moto. I had got the whole shot on the expert, and I was determined that I was gonna beat him, and I took the front end and went down. I go, but everybody went by me, and I got back by everybody else except for him.
Whenever he does that and he goes by, I always give him the like, "What the fuck?" Like, what do you think you're like?
I get that a lot.
Yeah, I always used to make my wife.
Or I like slam the top of my head, like think, like come on.
So my wife, she's a quad rider and she just likes riding for fun. I had my son, he's 14 now, and I have a daughter too, and she doesn't ride. He raced for 2 years. Yeah. And I had him on a little 50. I think he was 4 when he started riding. I think he was 7 when he first raced. And he raced for 2 years. And then as soon as he got on the 65, he did a couple of times and he was just done after that.
This is what I was going to share with them earlier when they were talking about buying the bike for Lucas. I think that's what happened with Braden too. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that those them being like a little 60, 70 pound kid, whatever, maybe even less on a bike like that.
Yep.
With the amount of horsepower those things have, because it's 50s and 65s, the racing
17 horsepower, the KX65.
Those
KTMs are nasty.
And those things are no joke. They are like meant for racing. Like I think one of our friends, a guy that I'm friends with, Joe Celso, we talked to him on our first episode. And Joe Race is an expert. He's been an expert for like, I don't know, damn near 30 years probably. And his son races. He said to his wife, he was telling us in the podcast that we did with him, because we asked him about his son racing. His son's 8. We asked him about his son racing, and he said to his wife, like, Julie, you don't understand. When he's on a 65, he can now do everything that I can do on that bike. And that's a lot, especially for a kid that's like 4, who's maybe like, I don't know your son, so maybe he's like all about it, but like for a kid who's even a little hesitant or a little cautious, that's enough to kind of give that pause.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Well, I think the issue is no, he does love it, but I think the issue is the KTM 50 is nasty.
It's nasty.
It is a beast for a 4 to 6-year-old to be on. That's a big machine.
38 pounds.
Right. He doesn't even weigh. Yeah, he's not even 40 pounds yet.
The first time he crashed on gravity, that was it. He was done. He would not get back on that bike. But the season before that, he had a JR50. He did really good. He ended up 3rd in the fall series. And the last race, like he did great for all through the summer and through the fall. And then there was a race. I think it was the last race. It was at Area 51. It was a mud day. And this was when Dominic and AJ Spadaro, they were just little guys. Like they were about the same age. And AJ and Dominic were racing that day. And I told Braden, I said, the only way you're going to be able to get that big trophy you want is if you beat those 2 kids over there. And he goes, I can't beat AJ and Dom. They're way faster than me. I'm like, well, you're going to have to find a way.
Yeah, you can.
So I said, if you go down, you just start screaming for me, because all the parents are out there. So he goes down. I mean, all the kids are struggling in the mud. And he goes down and he's like, Dad, he's screaming my name. And I go over and over there. All the kids are down. I mean, poor Dom and AJ, they were about the same age, or AJ was even a little younger. And I could see him struggling, but I'm like, I go, you need to push right now if you want that trophy. He just rocketed across that track, and that was foot deep mud. I've never seen a 50 go that fast before. And that kid finished. He was completely covered in mud, head to toe, but he had gotten, I think, 3rd that day out of like 7 of the kids. And he just had the biggest smile on his face.
Let's be honest here, dude. He's your kid. The fact that he was able to gut it out and like power through is not very surprising.
And he still looks at that big trophy and stuff that he got at the banquet, and he never wanted to race again.
Oh, heck he should.
Now he's a soccer player. He's going into junior varsity this year.
Yep.
So he's been playing team.
I got a 2nd place trophy out of 2 people at Burlington Motor Park. You're
damn
right.
Feels
That's
good,
right? In the living room for years.
You feel accomplished. And that's what you work for. Everybody wants that trophy.
Yeah.
I always noticed the better way
I don't know how these pro riders, I don't know how they do it. They like the cardio they must do must be absolutely insane.
Oh yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
I noticed the better way to get faster, if you wanted to get faster, is to always ride with guys that are faster than you. So I used to
Yes.
ride with A
Oh,
riders and B
yes,
riders all the
yep.
time, and
Yep.
just buddies of ours, and they would always push you just a little bit more if they were good teachers.
Yeah, we had a
Yep.
couple friends that did exactly that. Yeah, we've mentioned them before. A couple friends of ours, two brothers we know, the Van Anowicks, and they're like, and the older brother Andrew's an A rider, and his brother Brendan's a B rider. And the thing that Andrew would tell you, he would let you do something stupid if like he would do things that were challenging, and he would let you do something stupid if you wanted to, but he would never push you. But he would always say is like, well, I remember saying to me one day, he was like, Alan, he goes, the motorcycle can do it, you just can't. So nothing is more true than that
Sure.
statement. He's not like calling you
Yeah.
names.
It's
Like
very true.
it's just like the motorcycle can do it, but you can't. And if that,
I
but he
s-
wasn't like, it's like that's fine, you don't have to. But
I
yeah,
still think every single time in the back of my head that how Andrew used to say it's easier to go faster than it is to
it's
go
true.
slow, which is super true.
That's
Like when you start to struggle and
Oh
go
yeah.
slower, you make
that
more
is
mistakes than when you're going quicker
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
75, 80% pace and just
Yep.
flowing.
That is true. Like I was thinking about that this past weekend. I did an adventure ride on my other bike, the 2019 Suzuki V-Strom. And actually, I was listening to your guys' podcast. I was listening to Matt talk about his Loretta's qualifier while I was doing it. So it's all fresh in my head. But anyways,
We
and
have more listeners.
you do, I've been listening to it for a while. But anyway, we were ripping dirt roads
Nice.
down in the southern tier, like down near Cohocton and stuff. And
Okay.
anyways, I was thinking about the context of that. Like, yeah, the faster we went, the easier it was to ride some of that stuff. I mean, because some of that stuff is like the one dirt road they had just freshly oiled it, which worked great on street tires, not so much. But
No.
Right.
Yeah.
and actually, one of the places. This is the other thing is I just thought of is that one of the places you guys mentioned going to when you were at Cohocton, the restaurant down there, Station 29 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I drove
Yeah.
right by there later that day when I was like I had
That's
listened
cool.
to the podcast, and an hour later we went right by. So,
That's
but
cool.
yeah, so that's just. But yeah, that was what I want to get at. Is it actually is true. Like it was easier to go faster. It was easier to go faster because the bike like stood up more directly. And it's on a street bike, it's easy. Well, dual sport bike, whatever. It's
Yep.
easy to see. And it was also true. We did the dual sport down in PA too. It was the same thing. If you go faster through stuff, it's a little bit easier to move. Just sometimes tricking your brain and getting your brain to believe that is the hard part. Is what I'm trying to say. But
Usually, if you
Oh,
start
100%.
struggling and making
And-
one mistake, you'll just make
Yeah.
more.
See.
Yeah.
Yeah. That, I what made me think about that, but actually my very first moto at area 2 weeks ago, and I found myself right behind Sean Murray, the
Oh,
R08 rider.
that guy
and
is so smooth.
I was so excited. I was on
Yeah,
his fender,
I was happy too.
and I tucked the front end because I was pushing too hard. I was riding above my, sometimes I find myself I'm riding above my skill level, but you got to push. I don't, that's been an issue. I find myself riding above my head quite often, but I think that's how I've bridged the gap so quickly is I'll ride above my head and then kind of make up the rest as I go.
You'll never get better unless you push yourself that extra like 1% every
Right,
time.
exactly. Yeah.
I don't know if
Joe
you guys
calls
know
it
Sean
eating your
Murray at all.
broccoli.
Yeah.
Eating your broccoli, the broccoli trails. He said it's good for you. You might not like it, but it's good for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sometimes it hurts, but
Yeah.
Do you guys know Sean Murray?
I don't.
No, I don't. I don't know him.
So he's a 40A rider.
Yeah, 204.
Okay.
Yeah, at in Empire State. I don't know if he races anything else, but we always see him in Empire State. He is so
He's smooth, yeah.
I love watching him, just watching him. He's so smooth. You can literally, know exactly where he's going to be at on that track, on every corner, every lap.
Yeah. So that's I kind of pick a guy like that, and that's I pick a guy like that and think when I can hang with him, then I'll be ready for Loretta's. I mean there's and there's guys, I mean, and I get a lot of like Matt Jackson. We talked to him a bit, and so I try to watch him and hear what he has to say, and
that's what you got to
couple
do.
other
Yeah.
guys. Yeah.
Talk to guys faster than you, ride with guys faster than you, and just absorb everything that because all their different riding style, they're all different, and you'll find what works for you.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. And it's not always easy. At 47 years old, I don't quite have the reaction time and stuff of a 20-year-old, but I do my best.
Right.
I think your reaction time's better than mine.
It sounds like it's better than
Significantly
mine too, to be truthful.
Like everybody will have different advice. Like you could go to Ben Bowen's advice would be totally different than if you went to like Tom Addy.
Yep.
They're going to have totally different things to tell you, but you'll find something that either works for you from one guy or the other, or a combination of both. Or it's always good to ride with guys above your skill level.
Yeah. Are they local guys you guys know, or?
Yeah. So
like if you should know Ben Bowens with the big bat on the front of his bike.
So yeah, Benny is Ben Bowens is he goes by the nickname Batman. And he's a local. If you've raced Wynoa on bikes, you've definitely seen him there. He's a local racer. He's out of North York, which is the next town from Palmyra.
Yes, I have heard stories about him before. He used to race with the open face helmet.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, yeah. He's the guy who took the whole shot, Unadilla 2009 in the A class against all the factory riders. That's Benny, and that dude is insanely fast.
I don't think there's anybody in the state faster than him off road.
I don't think there is. I think he's really, really fast.
Yeah, I've heard stories of him.
He's a member of Palmyra. And he'll just show up with his son, and they'll just ride. His son Gunner is very fast too. I think Gunner's going to be 10. And you may hear his name because he's very, very fast too. He rides just like his father. He rides just like his father. Basically, throttle taped wide open the entire time. No,
that's scary for like
natural talent.
Yeah, he's very, very fast. Benny's insanely fast. Like he'll show up and like you ride in the hare scramble, and you're like, you hear a bike, you're like, oh, that was Ben. He's gone now. He knows. He's just going so fast. He's got lines in the woods, and he just knows where to go and how to go. So that's that's him. Yeah, he's very, very fast. He's a very good rider.
So switching gears a little bit, what do you guys do when you're not at the track or racing or riding?
Boss our ass
going around.
at home so we can get stuff done so we can go to the track.
Like in the off season or during the week?
Or work.
Just other hobbies or for your
Else,
occupation?
yeah.
We don't really have any other hobbies. So I'm like, for some more perspective, I'm a financial analyst for a telemedicine company.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm a diesel mechanic. Heavy equipment mechanic.
Cool.
So and we just started our own RV repair business as well. So during the week it's pretty much just like work and then get stuff done at night, and then Thursday or Friday night we're rolling out of here to go racing.
So you guys are busy. You're busy constantly.
Yeah,
we don't business and racing at the same time.
Yeah, run the business is a very, very light.
I would like to start. See, I'm technical and obviously financially analytical. So I handle all that stuff, and he does like the hard stuff. Actually fix things.
My full-time job is 50 to 55 to 60 hours a week. So it's I'm leaving 6:30 in the morning and not getting home till 5:30 at night.
And then I take care of everything that needs to get taken care of for the camper, and then head out. I was proud of myself this weekend. So actually we were at Burlington Motor Park. It's literally 20 minutes from our house. That was the key reason why we went.
Yeah.
And
save a little bit of money.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So we went. So he had to go to work. He's like, I'll go to work Saturday morning for a little bit and get some stuff done. And so when he was at work, I unloaded all the bikes out of the camper because we had the 450, we had the 150, we had his bike. So I took care of all that. And then he got there, and then he practiced, and I practiced. And then so like during the week, we're just doing laundry, cleaning the camper, cleaning the house, and then going again.
Getting ready for the
You guys sound exactly how we work over here.
How you do anyway, that's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and then during the winter, I mean, he just works probably some more hours to get some extra cash in, and then anything we need to maintenance over the winter, and then sometimes we go down to like we were at Budds Creek one time, and then Tomahawk one time over the winter.
We're Budds Creek for the area qualifier, Northwest Area qualifier.
Oh, okay.
You're already a good mechanic, so I'm sure you guys do all the work yourselves on the bikes, right?
Yeah. I don't.
Not we, just him. I'm a supervisor.
I don't.
You're doing a good job. You want another beer? You're doing a good job.
Making sure there's money there for it is very important too.
Totally.
Yeah. I don't do motor work and I don't do suspension work.
Yeah.
You could.
I don't know.
You definitely could.
You know, that motor's, you're counting out, if that thing cuts out and you're in your air, you're going to be a lot, I'm going to leave that. I'm going to leave that to somebody that's done many. I have the local guy that does a phenomenal job. He's particular and I just trust him. I trust him to do the motor work. And then,
because we were actually having, I don't know if you guys know him, but Shaco out of upstate New York.
I think I've heard the name.
Syracuse.
Yeah.
He was doing it, but then he got out of it. He got sick, and unfortunately, he got sick, so he doesn't have that anymore. So now we're using someone else.
I sent my stuff out to Factory Connection there last year, but I'm honestly not extremely impressed. So I found another local guy, and he's been helping me out. So
I've gone from when I was a kid doing none of the work myself and relying on my father to when I started riding and racing, and by 2009 I was maybe doing 25% of it myself, and I was scared to do everything else. And I would say in the last 10 years I've been doing 100% of everything.
Yeah.
From motor builds from the ground up, and taking everything right down to nuts and bolts.
And you would like to revert
suspension.
Would you like to
everything.
revert back to when your dad was all doing it?
Yeah, that would be great.
He probably would if we asked him, but you can't.
I never even cleaned my air filter.
Right
I never even washed my bike as a kid. I think I washed it twice as a kid its whole life.
Yeah. I make my boy. I make John wash his bike, and actually he's 14. Yeah, 14.
He'll be 14.
And he does a lot of his own bike maintenance. He wants to be a pro mechanic. That's what he wants to be when
That's great. I mean, that's always going to be
yeah.
man.
It's the way to learn for sure.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be great money, but it'll be a damn good experience.
Yeah.
Our buddy Chris Adolfo went to MMI motorcycle schools, and it brought him into a job at what dealers did he work at?
He worked for Cycle Enterprises, which
Cycle
is now
Enterprises,
he worked for Cycle Enterprise in Bloomfield, New York, which is just like to the southwest of Palmyra, close to Canandaigua Lake there.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So actually Chris is one. I think Chris is one of the guys you beat at Palmyra, Matt. I think you were first and he was third or something. Number 491. If the number sounds familiar, but yeah. So I with the work stuff, when I first started, I didn't know how to do anything, and it quickly became apparent to me that one, paying somebody to do it was going to cost a lot of money, and two, it was going to take a lot of time. And I wasn't really a big fan of either one of those things. And I made friends with the guy I mentioned, so we did with our own background. With a guy who was a diesel mechanic, who had been riding for years, and he knew how to do everything. And so Tim showed me how to do forks, and then he helped me do a top end, and so I kind of learned it all. That's what I would say to you, Matt. You already know how to do stuff, so it's not a big deal. It's really just following instructions. It's not so bad.
Okay.
The only other thing I would say too is when you do everything yourself, you know exactly what's going on inside that bike, and you know that you can rely on the exact way you want to do things, and that you've tightened every nut to torque, and you've tightened, you've Loctited everything. I mean, and you've double checked, so you've always known in the back of your head that everything is exactly the way you wanted it to be.
Yep. I mean, Adam rebuilt the motor on that 83 KTM, and the manual was mostly in German, right? So
yeah, everything's in Newton meters.
Everything's in German, and he still did it. So and it
99 YZ, I did ground up, and then that entire thing was apart, nuts and bolts, tranny. I mean, everything was in pieces. I did the whole motor work. And who did I sell that to?
Oh, Brandon Meyer.
Brandon Meyer. He used it as made into a Jeremy McGrath replica bike.
Oh, okay, cool.
But the whole thing was fresh. I mean, top to bottom. I've done everything on these now, but I used to be so scared to touch something on the suspension or inside the motor, and I would definitely recommend to anybody, to just dive in there, watch some YouTube stuff, and I mean, if you're a decent mechanic, you definitely know your way around a wrench, so it's all doable for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I rebuilt lots of diesel motors, but I just Yeah, the little things. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I've always worked on big stuff.
Say, because if you ask me to change, do anything in your car, forget about that.
Them little motors just I don't know. They intimidate me. Them little motors.
Yeah.
And then not. Yeah.
It's a smaller scale.
And I
that's
think,
all.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is I, you know, in the off season when you had us apart, I'm working 60. I'm working 60 plus
That's
hours.
the
so
other
it's just
problem.
finding the time to do it. So
that's the hard part is finding time. I mean, I get you there.
Yeah.
And I mean, really, we don't have that much time off. Like we're done. So this year we're not done until the 3rd week of October, which because we're doing the Travis Pastrana Classic down at Pleasure Valley.
Okay.
So that's like the 3rd week of October, and then we start again. I don't know if we're doing Motorama in Harrisburg again this year. We'll see.
We are not doing it. We're not doing it. It's a waste of money. It's worthless.
Okay, we'll see.
Way
to promote Motorama.
I don't care. I'm not trying. They didn't do a very good job at all this past year. I'm not trying to promote.
They had no vet classes last
year.
Yeah,
it was ridiculous.
And Barry Carson goes there every year, and they didn't have any vet classes.
He didn't. Yeah, he didn't go this year.
Like it's insane.
His boy actually was there. His boy raced.
Yeah, his boy.
They didn't do great either.
Yeah, so we went. So anyway, that was our first race. So I'm sure either we'll just go there to watch, or then immediately. So that's February.
Yeah,
we're back into going down south to practice. So it's like a 2 or 3 month gap. It's not really that long.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, and in that time period, you're just working and maintaining, and then you're back at it again.
Yep.
So do you guys have any other questions for us at all? Or, I mean.
Well, yeah, I did because, so how did you guys join the Palmyra Racing Association?
Oh, okay. I'll let Alan start that off because he joined the year before me.
So like I mentioned, I went to the Harris Scramble in 2007, and I was like, this place is awesome. I got to get in. And then I put in an application in 2008, and then I found out that my application in 2008 didn't roll over from year to year. I didn't know that. So anyway, long story short, I started going to CrossFit Rochester, which is owned by Joe Celso, a guest that's been on a local expert and guest that's been on our podcast. And he was like, dude, you put an application for Palmyra? And I was like, yeah, I did. And then, I went and I started working there, in 2010, like to do some extra, just to kind of get them to know my name and know my face. Cause back then it was kind of there was still a wait list to get in. Short version is I put in the application. People got to know me the day that they were looking at the meeting at the applications. Joe was at Joe. I went to the gym in the morning, and Joe called somebody that he knew at like 7 o'clock in the morning. Be like, make sure you get this guy in. So I did get in the 2011 season, and then I just kind of did whatever they needed. I would show up and cut grass, or I went to a work day where they would clear Woods Trail. And right around that time in the middle of that season, like, hey, does somebody know how to do website stuff? Because our website's kind of old. And I was like, yeah, I know how to do that. And so I started doing the PalmyraMX.com domain for them. And then at some point, I referred Adam for the 2012 season, I believe.
It was I started showing my face around 2010 after the scramble.
Yeah. Yep.
And then I put an application in 2011.
Mm-hmm. And one thing we learned is that once you join Palmyra and you want to volunteer, they are very glad to have you volunteer because, people they volunteer for a long time, they burn out, whatever it happens to be. And I turned making the website into just like redoing the website for them into basically redoing all the technology for the club, not the stuff with the district because that's separate. But the club has like our own membership web app that I built from the ground up pretty much from like a sheet of paper where people sign into the meetings to like our whole business process runs on that web app now. And there's a bunch of other stuff. We have like a phone system and all kinds of things for our members, to do all our tracking online and make the job of the secretary, because the club is made up of 4 or 5 directors, and then a board of directors at large. So there's like 11 people basically run the club. Okay. But I mean, if you join the club and you want to volunteer, they're like, sure. And then if people know you enough, you run for a board position in the fall, you get elected, and it just kind of rolls downhill from there.
So I ended up I ran for the board. I ended up joining the board, and then I was everything from 2016 to midway through 2020. I did all the public relations stuff. So I did like all the social media, the flyers, T-shirts, decals, all the awards. So all that stuff I handled from like 16 to middle of 2020 before I had a buddy, Kristen Costa, does that job now, and he's doing really good at it. He's the announcer also.
Yeah, so you'll know him. He's
okay.
the voice of the announcer at Palmyra.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Oh.
And it's hard after a while. You put in, when you're on the board of any kind of organization, you
can
always
only do
put
so
in,
much work for so long.
yeah, you put so much more time in than you get credit for, really. But I mean, you feel good at the end of the day, but it's a lot of work. And it's hard for people to stick with it for a while because, you know, it burns people out, and especially when you have, like, say we have a membership of 225, I think, families now.
200 and so 225, I think it is. 225.
Yep, there's probably only like 30 people, senior members, that really make that place function and turn and go around. And it's senior member.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, what does a membership at Palmyra, what does it give you? What do you get from that?
So you can ride anytime from basically when the snow melts until the snow falls again. You have unlimited access to the place, and it's for the whole family as well. So like for you guys, this would be a steal because there's 6 years
absolutely.
And I know you're far away, but I'm just using this example. Yeah, for you, there is one family. It's a family of 6 that rides too. But yes, and you basically have access to the facility, pretty much 7 days a week. With the exception of when to ride, with the exception of a race week. So like we had a race last weekend. And so you couldn't ride from Tuesday to Sunday because there was work being done on the track.
Yeah.
But like 4th of July weekend, you could go up there and camp and ride all weekend long, and like it's cool. That's what it's there for.
Yeah, you can camp and hang out. We camped out all Memorial Day weekend. We camped.
Yeah, he goes up there with his camper, and I come up with my kids, and we just hang out. Half the time we don't even freaking ride. Sometimes we just go up and hang out.
See, that's our if we had something closer to us that had something like that, we would totally. I would at least because you work long hours, but I could at least volunteer. But there's nothing. No. Whitetail, I'd say, would be the closest, and that's still an hour away.
Where region are you guys? Where are you guys at?
We're in Ulster, Pennsylvania. It's like 45 minutes below Binghamton.
Okay, at least you're in Freedom State.
Yeah.
You got that going for you. Yeah. So it starts out at like $500 for Palmyra, and your first year
for the whole year.
For the whole year, and you start out as a associate member.
Yeah, so it used to be that way. Now you start out as everybody pays $500, right? And then you can earn points. It's a number set by the board. I know this because I do all the online stuff, and all this information is in our online system. But anyway, so there's a number of points set by the board, and certain jobs carry certain point values. Like working as a flagger for a day carries 4 points, for example. Showing up to a meeting carries 1 point. Showing up to a work day carries 2. So like this year you need to get 21 points. It's based on the number of events that we have. The board kind of sets the number. And then if you get up to 21 points, then in the following year you don't pay anything. So it's the value's like $20 point or
which
something.
then you're
I think that's the best. That's the best way to do it. To get people to go in there, but it's also not easy to set up as well.
Yeah.
So then once you earn your points, you become a senior member, and if you keep earning your points each year, and you've been a senior member for 10 years, you can earn a life membership. Like
so it's actually
again, you're locked in forever.
The rule actually says that life member is like 10 years as senior member in good standing or like outstanding contributions to the club. But basically, if you've been it's just kind of like at the discretion of the board. But I mean, that's usually what it is. There, like we've had like our previous president, Ed Johannes, was president for like I think like 4 terms or something. Well, he's obviously a life member.
I think 6 terms.
Well, it was consecutive. 6, right? Yeah,
4
not
consecutive and
4 consecutive and then 2 after. Yeah. So like that's the kind of our current president. She was the treasurer for
forever.
Like 7
secretary.
Terms
Secretary for a while.
Secretary, yeah. So it's basically like life member is people who have really made outstanding level contributions to the club. Which at this point, Adam and I are almost there. So
yeah, we're almost life already.
Right.
And it's a heck of a commitment.
Yeah,
it's a long commitment.
Right. Well, you're going out there and you're spending your own time and helping them keep the grounds good, and
But that would be so cool.
I was gonna say,
I wish we lived closer.
Palmyra, the facility at Palmyra is
It's
beautiful.
not my favorite track, but the facility is amazing.
It's because you have PTSD
Yeah.
on that track.
And you know what? Actually, I was thinking about that today because I was thinking about talking to you guys. And what's that?
Oh, I didn't say anything.
You cut out.
You guys still there?
Go ahead. Sorry,
okay.
You say what you said again, because
It cut out.
Yeah, it cut out.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was gonna say that hands down, even if I know all the other tracks, but Palmyra, even though I'm a member, it would still be my favorite, just because, like you said, the facility we got so much going on for us. Like no other place even has a playground for the kids to play on. You know what I mean? It's a beautiful facility.
Yep.
It's still my favorite, even though I know all the other tracks in the district.
Yep.
No offense to
and
Chris and Glenn and the Six.
I don't think they
take
any advice from their
Ryan.
Yeah.
They're all good facilities, but I would still say Palmyra would be my favorite.
We liked it because, I mean, it is a beautiful track, but then on the other hand, like there was a playground there, so Lucas got to go play on that. The Stasic representative was there, so he got to do that for a while. Like, it was just fun for us.
Yeah,
we're the only ones that have a rotating woods course too for our membership. So we have like a single track course always set up, and sometimes in the summer it's like 4 miles long.
Okay,
the loop.
Yeah.
So we have 180 acres there now.
Yeah, we had a property that was 70 some, and then we bought the neighbor property. Mr. Granger, before he passed, he sold us his property. So yeah, we're looking at, there's other ones we're looking at too. We're hopefully going to be one of the largest landowners in the town of Palmyra. That would be the goal.
That's cool.
Can we pause for 1 second just to catch up on the audio, because I think it cut out for a minute.
Yeah, sure.
Do they just refresh?
I don't know what she's doing. Oh, she's muted. Okay. I don't know. I think it was probably my shitty internet cutting out, but I'll just edit it later. It's no big deal. So.
Yeah, I might want to just mention it to them, this section.
Yeah, it's right around the 127 mark or so. I don't know. It says 134, but it started when you came on. So that's the time on the meeting. So you came on a little before.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there at that point. But we could plug something while we're waiting. Blue Chew.
No, we don't have that yet. They're not paying.
We don't have anything yet. No.
When they start paying us, we'll throw that.
If you'd like to support the Benchracer's Guild or Hicks Racing, please contact us and join as a sponsor for the shows.
Benchracersguild@gmail.com. Now I'll have to find that and put it in, but that's okay. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We have some technical difficulties, folks.
Might be in there. I'm not sure.
All right, we're back.
All right. We just did a couple of random plugs for sponsors we don't even have.
Yeah, not yet.
And so if you want to support either show, get a hold of us.
Yeah, pretty much.
Now, what I was going to say is, it's a beautiful facility, and actually, I was thinking about that today when I was thinking about talking to you guys. I know you're in the, you're members there. The track is actually quite a bit of fun. I like the chain. They changed the roller and then the big tabletop. I just hate that big step up. And I've just seen it seems like every race. It just seems like every race someone gets hurt there. I got jumped on there because I couldn't. I came out of the corner and didn't get a run, and I had to roll it, and the guy couldn't see me because it's so far down and jumped on me, and I don't know. That's other than that, the track is a great time. I love the track.
Lucas had so much fun. I had fun.
I mean, that's my only, but because and like I said, we're more, when we do our podcast, it's more on the the racer side, and I just
it's like
I'm an Area 51 guy. I love Area 51.
Yeah, we were gonna ask you as well. Like we know that Chris Mosier rather well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know him. I mean, our friend.
We know.
Yeah, we know him pretty well. Yeah.
Sorry, Chris.
So we've been there. We've been there twice this year because he has those camping spots. up at Area 51. I forget how much it was for the weekend. It's like $90 for the whole weekend.
Or he has got the hookups and stuff.
Yeah. We were like, it'll save the generator. We'll just do that. So, and his garage is right there, so we go talk. That facility is gorgeous because he has the track, and then he has the beginner track, and then he also has the night cross track.
Yep, he's got a lot going on. And
that track
does 90% of that work himself. He lives there at the track.
He sure does.
Yeah, it sounded like it because we talked to him, and he was like exhausted, and I was like,
yeah, he works.
Like
that dude's a working fiend. I mean, he's got all day to be able to work at it. It's his full-time job, but it is a hell of a lot of work to do by yourself.
Yeah, he's the.
That's why. So Area 51 compared to Palmyra, like their members help them groom their tracks.
Yes. Yep. So
Palmyra?
Is that how that works?
Yeah, there's like 200. There's a bunch of members, 225, whatever we said it was.
225 family memberships.
There is one person who is who's kind of like a retired guy. He's kind of like full time. He's kind of paid by the club to do a lot of work.
There's two of them now. They split it, Jimmy and Jimmy.
Okay, so they split it, and there's another person who runs a construction company that has a dozer. Ned Munier. He runs Victor Excavating. He does some of the work for us as well. And then there's just like members.
Okay.
Water.
Okay.
Like, so there's jobs that everybody can sign up to do, or if there's something needs to be done, you can also like take a picture of it before and after to turn in for your points. And there's constantly work up there that needs to be done. And
the heavy equipment is run by like skilled operators who know what they're doing. Like I wouldn't know what the hell I was doing with any of that stuff. So there's skilled operators that run stuff, but then everybody chips in a little bit. So like I mentioned, my end is the technology end of things. So I'm that's my thing that I contribute on. And then there's other stuff that people do. It's just that like anyone can bring a skill set. And if it fits what we need, then we will use it. That's kind of where we're at with it. So it's very much the many hands make taken to an extreme is how it's run pretty much.
Right, because you can't necessarily have just anybody jumping on a dozer and trying to build a jump, or face a jump or whatnot.
Yep. Yeah. That is correct.
Does anybody have anything else we wanted to cover, or we move on to shouts and blogs?
No, I think. I think we're good.
I think this has been fun.
Cool.
Oh, this is great, guys. And then definitely going to stop by and say hello next time I see you at one of the tracks.
Yeah, you better.
Now we have to.
Yeah, well, I'll be up there for.
We'll give you a beer.
I don't do a lot of like heading out to a lot of the other Empire tracks as much as I used to, but I'll definitely be at King of the Hill.
Yeah, me too.
I'd probably be working the gate at some point. I know my wife wanted to go up for King of the Hill, so we'll definitely see you guys up there. I'll take a ride through the pits and find you somewhere.
Yeah, I'm coming up too. I got.
Will you guys be at Unadilla National at
all? No, but one of these years I really want to make it down for the vintage bike races. Like I'm super into the vintage stuff.
Okay, they had those,
Yeah, they just had that
amateur weekend, and then we're going to the national race too.
One of these, I'd like to make one of these sometime just to hang out and just meet all the pros. Like some of them we know, like Cooper Webb. We knew him when he was like a little kid up racing in Palmyra.
That's crazy.
So, yeah, he actually raced in 2012 King of the Hill, and he like took home most of our prize money.
Yeah, he crashed right in
front
of me.
That wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, he was like about 15. He was 15 at the time.
Yeah,
he was 15 years old at the time.
In the middle of.
So was he on the CRF 150 then?
He was on. No, he was on. It wasn't. He was on
YZ 250.
Star Yamaha YZ 250F.
Yeah.
He went. I think it was right like the summer before he went pro. And he went down in a corner and crashed right in front of me, and then got up and continued.
We've ended up racing with a lot of people. Like Derek Anderson was out the track at one time. We ended up racing with Jedediah Haynes off road, and who the heck else was out there?
A bunch of people. I don't know.
One of those who used to be a Supercross star. I don't know why the name's escaping me.
John Dowd.
John Dowd. Yeah, John Dowd.
That's cool.
Yep. Yeah, off-road the first 24-hour race up at Tall Pines.
That's cool.
Yep.
I mean, we've met a lot of people.
We were talking about this weekend with that guy?
Kyle Bitterman was out there.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Nicoletti.
That's crazy.
Phil Nicoletti.
Of course, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. He's from this area.
Yeah, you made a lot of cool people doing this,
Yeah.
It's
absolutely.
It's a great sport. Definitely like it.
It sure is. It sure is.
So I don't see. We want to do a shout out for both shows and where we can find. Pretty much we're in the same spots, right? Or I think we're all on.
Should be.
Apple
these guys are on
Podcast,
YouTube, which we're not.
Spotify. Oh, they're on YouTube too.
On YouTube too. I got
Yeah,
all
we're on.
I've gotten it out yet.
We're Spotify and Apple Podcasts, Hicks Racing Podcast, and then Instagram, Facebook is Hicks Racing 123, and then if you look at YouTube, it's Hicks Racing Podcast.
Yep,
cool.
So our stuff is
name it off.
anywhere you can find podcasts, the Benchracer's Guild, and the benchracersguild.com and benchracersguild@gmail.com. Facebook is the Benchracer's Guild, the same with Instagram. So I think that's all of them. And YouTube coming soon. I really need to do that. I just haven't gotten to it yet.
Did you guys actually like film your shows?
I can help you if you want. I'm not good at it, but I can help you.
And if you want to support our shows, email either of those addresses.
Yeah, benchracersguild@gmail.com. If you want to be on, if you want to do something, we're we get a lot of guests, but we're willing to talk to people. So I think I've only actually gotten
deep
one
now.
Yeah, the list is long because we know a lot of people, but we're if you want to